Hi, I'm Irene Pasternack, teaching with Northwest Parkinson's Foundation, teaching Feldenkrais. And today, my theme of the day is exploring the difference between procrastination and ease, as Sharon described it. And in the process, movement gets better as we play in this realm. To start, let's our face and our head and we have all of our teleceptors there, right? We've got our ears and our eyes and our mouth and our nose to be able to sense what's going on in our environment. So as a measurement move today, imagine that there's some delicious smell seeping into your room that you're sitting in, and reach with your nose to sniff it. And see, are there some places, if the smell comes from some parts of the room, is it easier to sniff? Like, where'd you go first to sniff? And if you go somewhere else, what are the sensations in your body when you go to sniff in that other place?
So for those of us who have no sense of smell, Parkinson's, like 98.9 of us, we have to imagine smells.
Okay, imagine, do you have some taste?
Some, but no sense of smell at all.
Okay, so imagine taste, or imagine something beautiful. You've just walked into a museum that's covered with lovely artwork, or your grandchild's room that has all their drawings on it. And notice how your eyes can easily see some parts of the room, but not other parts. Or you're surrounded by fabric, all different kinds of fabric, and you want to touch it with your cheek and feel, is it soft, is it prickly? If you had no other teleceptors other than your sense of touch, what's it like to move your head to different places to feel?
You tend to want to close your eyes to
Yes.
get the full sensation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's a useful technique to use in the class anytime we're talking about sensations, looking for your sit bones or which foot you have more weight on. Closing your eyes helps that sense of touch come in more. Okay, and then what's it like to reach for something? You want something off the shelf over there. What's it like to reach for that one, or something that's on the floor over there? Okay. And what's it like to stand up out of your chair this morning? Is this one of those days that it's easy to stand up, or one of those days where moments where it's not so easy? Okay, so we're going to start playing and exploring now. So we've worked many classes with the idea of flexion, with taking our body and curving it forward. So begin to flex like that, but lead with your head. So your head comes forward, and then go slowly. You'll feel as your head comes forward, it does something to your shoulders. It does something to your sternum. Your belly reacts to that weight coming forward. You might find yourself rolling on your sit bones a little. And then come back up to neutral. Make sure you're at the front of your chair as you're doing this. Now, instead of leading with your head, lead with your pelvis. So take your sit bones and curl them under you, which pulls your belly in, pushes your waist back, and that makes your sternum get heavy and your face begin to come down. Okay, and come back to neutral. Now try leading with your eyes. So you look down, bends your neck, and then the weight begins to pull your shoulders, your sternum, your waist, your sit bones. Come back. Try leading with your nose. So your nose goes down first. And feel how that's slightly different in sensation in your neck and your back than when you use your eyes. And then lead with your chin. Okay. Now let's explore arching. So arching is when you tip forward over your sit bones, your belly's forward, your shoulders back, and you're looking at the ceiling, using your long stick to push the middle of you forward, okay? And experiment with what happens if you lead with your head. So it's like your head reaches up and then you feel it pull your chest, and that pulls your belly and it brings you forward over your sit bone and come back to neutral. You could lead with your pelvis by taking your sit bones backward, pushing your belly forward, your chest, your head, your eyes. You could lead with your eyes. So if you look up at the ceiling, at least here in the Northwest, it's spider season. So see if there are any spiders up there on the ceiling. And that brings your head, brings your neck, your shoulders, etc., going down. Okay, and come back and lead with your chin. See if it's different when you lead with your chin. Does that make you bend a little bit more in your neck rather than in the middle of your spine? Lead with an ear. Like there's a speaker in the ceiling, you're hearing a voice from above and you want to hear by leading with your ear. And lead with your other ear. See why you chose the first one first. So it might be a little harder to lead with the second ear. And then let's try the other movement of shifting your weight left and right. Just for a moment, do it however you do it to shift your weight from one sit bone to another. And then lead with your head. So you could lead with the top of your head toward one side. You could lead with your chin. Go ahead and close your eyes as you lead with these different parts, because that'll help you, as Danielle said, to sense what's going on in you. If you lead with your chin, do you shift your weight differently than if you lead with the top of your head? Try it on each side. Once do the chin, once do the top of your head. See how they ask for different movements in your spine. What if you lead with your ear? Does that ask for something even a little different? And what if you lead with your tongue? To go side to side. Mm-hmm. And then what if you lead with your pelvis? If you lead with your pelvis, where does it ask your spine to side bend? And what if you had some antenna in your ribs? So instead of a teleceptors up at your head, your teleceptors were somewhere in your ribs. Which rib would reach the furthest out to the side because it wants to touch something or see or sense? So now look around your room at some object. And as you orient toward looking at that object, what part of you did you go with first? This kind of tells you what your habit are. Are you an eye? Do you orient your eyes and then your head and then your body comes to move a little closer to it? You could try orienting to that object from your pelvis. So you're thinking about that vase over there and you turn your hips a little bit to get you there. If it's something that's making noise, you might organize with your ear. Feel how your ear helps you move a little closer to that object. And with this object, feel if you go past your sit bone as you're orienting to it. So do you stay with your weight in between your two sit bones, or do you somehow come a little outside that box of the sit bones? If you're thinking, yeah, I really want to touch that, feel how you can experiment with what if you come outside your sit bones, no matter where you start, but you go that little bit further into it, okay? And then stay within your sit bones. Don't go that far as you're going to it. And feel if there's an emotion associated with those two different ways of going. Like if I go outside my sit bone, I have the feeling, yeah, like, yeah, I'm going to go touch that thing. And if I stay between the sit bones, it's like, yeah, I'll wave at it. Hi, that object's over there. It can stay there. So my hypothesis is that procrastination is when we stay in this box in the middle of ourselves. Because when I'm in that box, it's like I'm not really curious about what's outside it. I'm kind of stuck in the middle. But when I can have the ease to shift and come a little bit out of the box, that's where there are possibilities. Yes. Let's play with building more of that ease in our torso so that we can orient to the things we're interested in doing. And this is going to be one of those pat your head, rub your belly moments. So if it gets confusing, just stop and we'll restart it. But when you're orienting, so pick something that's on whichever side is easier for you to orient to. Just something in your room that you notice. And come back. And now take your eyes and your head toward that thing, but leave your shoulders forward. So you keep your shoulders forward and your head and your eyes go to the side. Okay, good. Now, take your eyes and your shoulders to that side. So eyes and shoulders, and leave your head in the middle. So to leave your head in the middle and take your eyes and your shoulders to the side. It's a strange little motion.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Welcome back, Pam, and it's really nice to see you. I did just text you if you could please put on your camera or your audio, and after that you can switch it off if you need to. So sorry, Irene.
All right, I'm gonna continue, Mira, while you work with Pam. So we were doing eyes and shoulders, but not the head. Okay. Then take your head and your shoulders toward that object, but leave your eyes behind. And then we're going to exaggerate this a little bit. Take your head that way and your shoulders and eyes the other way. So if your head is going to the right, take your shoulders and eyes to the left. And try that a few times. Then take your eyes toward the object and your shoulders and your head the opposite way from the object you're looking at. And then take your shoulders to the object you're looking at and take your head and your eyes the other way. Okay. And then now just orient to that object and see if your body, your whole self is coming a little bit more toward the object. That there can be a little twist in your spine and a little arching as you move toward it. We're just working on breaking up our habits of staying inside the box where the pelvis, the head, the shoulders, the eyes all move as a team. All right. And then compare what's it like to turn to that side of the room that you've been working on. And what's it like to turn to the other side of the room? Do you have a little more of that sense of ease on the side we were just playing? And if you close your eyes and sense where your weight is on your sit bones, is there more weight on one side? And if you breathe in, does the air go more into one side of you than the other? It's funny how this little subtle play can really make a big difference in the mobility in the middle. So let's find something on the other side of your room. And what part of you orients to it? Is it your head or your eyes? Do you turn your whole self as a unit to orient to it? And then take just your head and your eyes to look at it while you turn your shoulders the other way. So head and eyes one way and the shoulders the other way. Then take your eyes and your shoulders toward the thing you're looking at, but leave your head, try and turn your head the opposite direction. So eyes and shoulders toward what you're orienting to, head stays and tries to go the other way. Okay. Then take your head and your shoulders toward the thing you're orienting to, but look the other way with your eyes. So if you had an eye in your chest, it would be seeing this thing, but your real eyes are looking the opposite way. Then take your head to the other side and your shoulders and your eyes toward what you're orienting to. Wait a minute, I said that backwards. Look at the object with your eyes and take your shoulders the other way. Look at the object with your head and shoulders and take your eyes the other way. And then use all of yourself to orient and see if it's a little easier to orient to this other side. Let's add a little piece in. So take your hips and orient them to the object on this side and take your shoulders the other way. And notice, what does your head do? Does your head go with your hips or with your shoulders? And whatever pattern you noticed your head doing, do the opposite. So if your head was going with your shoulders, let your head go with your hips. So just your shoulders are opposite. Or if you were already doing that, let your head go with your hips and your shoulders go opposite. And then see what it's like to orient to that side of the room. If you wanted to go ahead and actually reach out for that object, does your body flow with a little bit more ease toward it? And now imagine that you have those antennae on your ribs. And on the second object, what antenna, which rib where would you put that antenna so that you could go toward that object? And then pick another object in the room in a different place and feel, where would you put that antenna in your rib? in your ribs. Because the rib cage, we've got the whole bottom to top, front and back. There's a lot of ribs to choose where to put this antenna on. And keep going around your room, imagining an antenna on your ribs, and you're organizing your body to move that antenna toward the thing you're looking at. Find some things that you can use the bottom ribs, the lower ribs in the back to try to orient toward where you're going. Find some things that you can put the antenna on the side of your rib cage. It's kind of time to do an inventory of what's in your room. You might notice some things that, oh wow, I haven't noticed that rubber band on the floor, or boy, that is a pretty picture over there. I remember where I got that. But just the antenna from different places reaching toward the thing. And then come to a neutral place where you're sitting on the front of your chair, on the front of your sit bones, and breathe in. And feel if there's a little more air going in. Perhaps is it more or less symmetric than it was before? And from that place, make the slightest little change of rolling back on your sit bones and then coming back onto that place. Of rolling back a little on the sit bones and then noticing something in your room and moving a little toward it. And feel if there's a mood shift, that just the slightest sense of pulling in, rolling back, and there's like, that's not so important. And then you come forward and toward, and it's, oh, I don't remember reading that book. Maybe it's time to reread that one. Or like if your curiosity engages as soon as you move a little toward something. And it's not a huge movement in between those two, that a little bit collapsed in and the, something's going on. You know how they say that love is not this like permanent thing, that love is a series of choices to be kind, to be nice, to connect with somebody. Ease is not something that just happens to you or doesn't happen. It's a choice, and the choice has that bit of moving toward, the decision to move toward. And that's really, in all of the Feldenkrais classes I'm teaching, what I'm trying to help with is finding that ease so that you can come out of sort of the inner chatter where we get lost in ourselves into doing what you want to do when you want to do it. So I don't know about you, but for me, if I think I shouldn't procrastinate, all I do is feel worse about myself. And it's like, you beat yourself down into a little puddle. But if I can engage with the curiosity of, what about that? What's the texture of that object? What's the whatever? Then the body comes out into space. I'd love to just chat about that. You've had this little experience with this lesson of coming out of the box of yourself, a little outside your sit bone, a little forward, a little to the side. And how that might be resonating with you.
For me, it was confronting the difference between the right and left. Like if I want to feel ease, I have to, and the kind of symmetry, I'm not obsessed about the symmetry, but I'm obsessed about the ease. I need to tilt the head to one side in order to do the pecking motion without, it's like something has twisted or got distorted in the neck. This is my feeling.
Do you do the same things with your sit bones when on your easy side? Notice what your sit bones are doing, how one can kind of grab and turn under you as you look up. And see if when you go the other way, you're doing the same thing with the other sit bone underneath. Does that make it easier to look up?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of times what feels like the problem is in the neck is that the neck is the victim when the sit bone isn't engaging underneath to move you. Because the neck muscles are little and just a short part of the spinal chain. And if you started at the bottom, and that helps get you out to the side.
So what if you want to just look not to one side, but up to the ceiling?
Then both sit bones need to grab and go under, and they need to do it at the same speed. Everybody try that with your sit bones, grabbing your chair to go backward, and see if there's just this little bit where one goes before the other. It's like one side of your bottom is smarter than the other, and or more, it's more the eager part of your bottom to go backward, and exaggerate it. Let that part lead the way and feel how it'll make a shoulder come forward before the other one when one part of the bottom engages. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then a few times engage the other part of the bottom. And then alternate, once lead with one side of your bottom and once lead with the other side. So you're pulling your sit bones under you, which brings your head forward and begins to allow, and now try and do them at exactly the same moment, which might mean telling the eager one to slow down a little. And see if that helps you then look up in the middle. And it may be that there are differences in other parts of your spine that you need to play with in that same kind of way of going, oh, do I feel my mid back arching the same amount left and right, and playing, alternating and getting them even.
That's great, but what if you are standing? In standing, if you want to look up, you don't have, it's kind of like I feel I don't have the reference of the sit bones. It's
let's all try that. Let's all stand up. If standing is comfortable for you, otherwise stay in sitting. And to stand and look up, you could orient with your eyes and just do the back of your neck, and that's probably not very comfortable. But if you thought that your belly button had an eyeball and you push your belly button forward and bend your knees a little so your belly button eyeball can see the ceiling, then it'll be a little easier to lift your head. Or if you put an eyeball on your sternum and you think, I want to face my sternum eyeball to the ceiling, the antenna in the ribs reaching up. Like you can imagine you had little hands on different ribs, and those hands are reaching up for the ceiling. And the weight on your 2 feet as you do that, feel as you go forward with your middle to look up to the ceiling, how the weight goes into the front of your feet. Does it go the same into your left foot and your right foot? You might find on one foot it goes into your big toe, and on one foot it rolls out to the base under your 4th toe. And if you can make it symmetric and sort of deliberately take the weight out toward the fourth toe on both, then your neck will be more evenly supported. But if you, oh, we've got 3 people in the waiting room. Okay, I'm letting Sharon in. If you, everybody try putting your weight on the big toe side of one foot and the little toe side of the other foot. And as you look up, feel how one side of your neck gets tight, and you want to look up toward one side. And try your feet the other way, and you'll find it also makes one side less comfortable. And then try and find the under the fourth toes as you push your middle forward. I've talked before about how there are some words in the English language. I don't know Hebrew, so I don't know what the words are in Hebrew, but that we should not have a word neck in our vocabulary, because the neck is just part of the spine, and that anytime you're moving your head, it's your whole spine.
Mm.
Okay, come and sit down.
Thank you.
I'm curious how the topic of procrastination versus ease, and maybe another alternative to procrastination is engaged, sort of engaged in the world. And I know COVID for me it seems like it constant, and then with the fires, it knocks me back into this internal space. I kind of withdraw because I'm not being pulled out in my usual things, and I have to make a more conscious effort to engage with the world. And this lesson of being able to, I don't know, it's easier for me to play with the body things than the thought things. So if I just allow myself to come outside of the box of my sit bones, I'm automatically engaged in whatever's going on. It's a way to play with switching my emotional space. And I'm just curious, do you guys find yourself in that same place where you get, I don't know, almost trapped in a disengaged mode?
Trapped in negativity, you have to make yourself think more positive thoughts. You have to actively go
It's
towards
like,
the positive.
there has to be some action that gets you out of that cycle. And what I love is having a physical way to do that, because it feels like less work to do it physically, then I'm out, than to sort of willpower or push the thought process differently. It's, has anybody found with your Parkinson's that along with the Parkinson's comes a little bit more passiveness toward your world, less engagement?
My husband says I blame everything on the Parkinson's, and I have to get away from doing that.
There's a quote that I love that Feldenkrais used, which is, we can't become conscious of a feeling before it is expressed as a motor mobilization. And therefore there's no feeling so long as there's no body attitude. And I mean, there's no doubt that one of the things Parkinson's does is make it harder to move and harder to sense smaller differentiations, which means it can make it harder to feel your emotions. There is a physiological piece to it. And it's why I think the Feldenkrais and this movement and learning how to move with more ease is so important, because it allows the emotions to be felt and acted on more. Yeah. Barbara, did you have something to say? You had your,
I didn't have anything to say per se, but when you said, do you feel trapped? Most definitely. And it is sort of a, it's starting to feel like a bit of a quicksand cycle. So this is a tool to help me pull out of that, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's funny, I know out here with the smoke, more of my friends went downhill this last week. Just because you can't get outside, it's like, feels like the pandemic's starting again, and then Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying, and just sort of like the world collapsing in some sort of way. And that's why I came up with today's lesson of just the way to come back into things.
Yeah, it adds more to the fight because like it's the effort to go in public places or go to the doctor or something. There's another layer of challenge there, as well as going into the
Oops,
keeping the social thing going.
yeah. Mhm.
And as Danielle said, your partner blaming it on the Parkinson's, or you're claiming you blame it on the Parkinson's. That is so hard to tease apart. That's an endless discussion.
Yeah.
challenge.
It's like you're, I don't know, as a woman, it's when your husband says, you know, you're only bringing this up because it's before your period. And it's like, no, there is some chemistry that's going on, but it's what we mostly need are the techniques for how to be the way we want to be in the world. And you know, you all know there's reality to what's going on in your body, and that you can also blame it if you want to, but there's no clear X or Y, you know, one side of it. Yeah.
I had a teacher, I had a Feldenkrais teacher who said, I agree what you said, what Moshe Feldenkrais said about the expression of the movement as an emotion and vice versa, but most Parkinson patients have a very sharp thinking. And the good news is that thinking has always a component in the muscles. She said that every thought is expressed in a muscle somehow.
Yeah.
Which is good news because the Parkinson patients can think, and they can direct the thinking.
And directing your attention, just like you look around the room and your eyes fix on something, it orients your whole body to it. So the thoughts help us stay mobile. Barbara.
If everything is expressed in a muscle, and we have the dopamine is the lack of chemical is keeping us from doing that. How does that all play together in your mind as the condition may evolve?
It's kind of like as aging slows us down, we end up doing things when we want to stay engaged, I don't know, to fight back a little bit, and the going, I have to have better skills at moving in order to keep myself as mobile as I want to be. So that's the like, you know, I've been able to get away with being 20 pounds overweight for years. Maybe I have to lose a little bit so I'm carrying less around, or I'm going to take some Feldenkrais classes because it seems to make me more mobile so I can stay more engaged. And adapting what you choose to do. You know, I used to love running, but my foot won't seem to let me do that anymore. So, all right, I'll do skating or, but
Mm.
using it as a way to develop different sides of your personality, some hobbies, some interests that you never had time for before because you're so busy with it to develop. I don't know. I'm curious how you guys think about that. How you approach when you feel new limitations. How do you stay sane? How do you orient yourself toward your life and your future?
Well, yesterday or 3 days ago, I felt invigorated, and I had a little screening process going, but I acted impulsively in a very positive, enthusiastic way, and I injured myself. Yeah, so it's a hard call to evaluate what to do.
Yeah, I know I can get myself in trouble when I think, oh, I'm 30, I could do this. And, so the being enthusiastic and going for something within the realm of safety. Yeah. And there is safety to be found if you come in between your sit bones, you're not going to get hurt because you're not moving. And that's where this work toward balance makes a difference in life quality. The learning, because sometimes you can override when the automatic isn't working as well. The more you understand the counterbalance of your body, you can override the automatic to find it again.
Irene, can you say something about imagination in movement? Because I think it's also a resource for, like, when, for example, in stiffness, of if one side of the body is stiff. So how can you use the resource of imagination or guided imagery in order to ease the stiffness, to eliminate the stiffness?
For that, I think next time, there are a lot of Feldenkrais lessons that do half of it in real life, actually moving, and half of it in our imagination. And I'd like to do an experiment with that because I'm very curious how that works and interacts with Parkinson's. Whether the Parkinson's makes it harder to imagine movement or yeah, and so we'll do an experiment. We're going to do a lesson next time that half on one side in movement and half in the imagination, and see how it works. Because when we imagine doing something, we're rehearsing it, and that's the way athletes perfect their move. Somebody who's doing one of those curly dives off the board, if they can imagine the movement fully, then they can do the movement. And that's what we can play with that.
Do you think it's right also when there is a debilitation, like the joints are the cartilage in the joint is eaten, for example, is gone. So does imagination can still overcome this?
The thing I'd say about the cartilage or whatever, they've done MRIs on people who have really a lot of missing cartilage, damaged discs, whatever, who are in pain and who aren't in pain. And joints, it's like you can often find a way to be comfortable in the joint, even if there is joint damage, up to a point. So yeah, we're all living with whatever our various injuries are, and it's more about how do you get the rest of your body to do a little bit more to put less pressure on that joint. I think, anybody else have anything they want to say? Colleen.
I just had a question, and I have something I wanted to show you, but what time are these posted? Because sometimes I can't get Andrew here at the right moment. And I don't know when to start checking for these. And I like to
It's
say-
not always regular because I have to, it converts. And if I have other clients or whatever, I don't get to it. And sometimes I wait a week or two before I hand it off to Mira. And sometimes Mira's really quick and, you know, at 10 at night, she's up there posting it. And sometimes it takes her a day or two. So I can't, within a week or two, within a week.
Okay, so I shouldn't start looking this afternoon or anything. Okay.
Yeah, don't start looking this afternoon.
Okay. And
there's
then
a big conference tomorrow, so it'll be after that.
I was trying to find something. I thought, well, if Irene had a smaller skeleton, it might be easier for her. And I started looking at them, and they are kind of expensive if you go through an art store. But I found this at Walmart. It's a Halloween skeleton. But then I thought he was kind of gross looking, but he moves really well. I thought he has really great motion. But when I saw his shoulders are stuck. So I thought, no, he's not going to work. I actually did.
It is the challenge with skeletons because you want a fully articulated one, and they're about $2,500. And
I love you, but not that much.
Colleen, how much was that in Walmart?
Say it again, Mira.
I said, how much did she spend in Walmart on that skeleton? Oh, you muted yourself.
She's showing the price tag, $14.97.
But I got it for my pirate blood bank fundraiser scavenger hunt that we did socially distanced. So he had a dual purpose.
I love it. I think we should all buy a skeleton over Halloween. You're right. It's way cheaper than whatever Irene's got hanging behind her.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up there then for today, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Though actually for $14.99, I'm not sure all the bones are there, Irene. I don't think.